y'all? My name is Jaime Rios. I'm so excited to be with you guys. Miss Barry and I actually work at City View Church together. I am the student director at City View Church. And so we're just going to kind of get jumping in, and I'm going to kind of share with y'all who I am through today's lesson. Today's lesson is an important one to me. These are some verses that I've been kind of a rock to me, and so I wanted to share them with y'all. I know how important it is for adults and young people to be pouring into other young people. Something that I know from personal experience, that when someone has shared something with me, that it's especially something that's meaningful, that it's been something that kind of sticks with me. And so Hebrews 12 verses 1 through 2. These are the verses that we're going to be looking at today. If you have a Bible, open it up. I'm going to be in the New Living Translation. I like this version to kind of help understand phrase by phrase, because that's what this version does better for us. It's not necessarily a word for word translation, but it is a phrase for phrase, so it kind of helps you understand the context of the entire verse. And so we're looking at Hebrews 12, 1 through 2. And so let's read it together. It says, "Therefore, since we're surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding the shame, and is now seated in the place of honor beside God's throne." So we're going to be looking at these verses together. And one thing that I learned from a pastor whenever I was younger is that whenever you see a therefore, you have to look and see what it is there for. And so Hebrews 11 talks about the hall of faith. And the hall of faith talks about these people that came from within the Bible and how they did things by faith. And they did things by faith, and that's how they're honored within the text. They're honored in Hebrews 11 because by faith Abraham did this, by faith Jacob did this, by faith Rahab did this, by faith Noah did this. And so it's showing us how by faith each person did what God had called them to do. And so when we look at Hebrews 12, it says, "Since we're surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith," this huge crowd of witnesses are these people that are surrounding us. You see, I'm married, and so my wife and I, we have 3 kids. One thing that we like to do for exercise, we like to run, and maybe not even just for exercise. We like to do it. We like to run races, and so we actually ran the Houston marathon in January, which feels at least like 15 years ago by this point. So January 2020, we ran the Houston Marathon. Houston Marathon is the single largest sporting event in a single day that takes place in Houston. And so a lot of people involved, and especially the people that are surrounding us as we're running our race. There are thousands and thousands of people that are surrounding us as we're running our race. And that's this idea of being surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith. You see, the people that are surrounding us in our life of faith are those Hebrews 11. It's like they're cheering us on. It's like they're encouraging us to continue running because they've run and they've finished the race. And so they're encouraging us to keep going. They're encouraging us to have the endurance to run the race. And so this is how we run well, okay? The very first thing we do to run well is that we strip off every weight that slows us down. We strip off weight that slows us down. And so we need to lay aside those things that slow us down. And these things aren't necessarily sin. These things can be good things that cause us for our race to be slowed. Maybe they're friends. Maybe it's sports. Maybe it's social media. These things can get in the way of our race, and they can slow us down. And so we need to strip off those things. We need to take those things off. We need to put them aside in order for us to keep our eyes on Jesus, as we'll see later on. But then the author talks about specifically the sin that trips us up. We need to take those things off as well, because sin is always right there and always wanting to distract us from our race with God. And it's always right there. And so Hebrews, this is what it tells us, right, in Hebrews right here. But then in Romans 7:21, says this, "So I find it to be a law that when I want to do right, evil lies close at hand." And so evil is always right there. And so we need to be aware of those things that can trip us up. And then as we go on, it says, "And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us." So my wife and I, we were running this race. And we're at mile 8. At mile 8, we actually split off from the half marathoners and the full marathoners, and we continue running. Mile 12, we get to see our kids, which is super cool. And then we kind of feel like we could run forever. And then at mile 14, I just kind of hit a wall. Not a physical wall. I didn't run into a wall. But I hit this wall of just being completely tired. And so I didn't feel like I could continue. But this was my wife's first race, and so I wanted to continue running with her. And so we kept running. And this word endurance right here means to patiently suffer. And so we patiently suffered this race. And so sometimes life can feel like you're patiently suffering through whatever it is that you're going through. There's lots of different things that we could be going through. And if 2020 is a picture of that, then that's, oof. And we have to remember that this is a race that God has set before us. Like, God already knows the race that we're running, so we just need to keep our eyes on Him, which is what's next, right? Keeping our eyes on Jesus. He is our finish line. He is the one that has completed the race, and He did it perfectly. So we keep our eyes on Him. We stay focused on Him in order to run our race. He's the one that initiates and perfects our faith. And so when we keep our eyes on Him, He's the one that did it perfectly, and we can know that we can trust Him, and we can put our whole entire faith in Him because He's already done it all. And He did it all because of the joy that was awaiting Him. He knew that there was something better out there. He knew that there was something even greater than we could ever even imagine, which was being glorified by God. And now He's glorified by God because He endured the cross. He endured the cross for us. He died for us. He died for you. He died for me. And He died for our sins. And the cross wasn't something that was like just a little thing. It was a big thing that He did for us. He died on the cross for us. And that's such a huge part of our faith. Admitting that we're sinners and showing, man, God, You had to die for my sin. And then it says here that He disregarded the shame. He just threw that shame away. He didn't care what other people thought about Him, because He was going to do something that was for the joy that was set before Him, the joy that was awaiting Him for Him. And now He is seated at the right hand of God. He's seated in the place of honor, which is the right hand of God, because of what He did. And so one thing I want to just challenge you guys with today is to keep your eyes on Jesus. I know 2020 is difficult. I know school is different. I know that we want things to get back to normal. But if we keep our eyes on Jesus, we can see what He's trying to teach us through this entire year, and see how He wants to use us in all of this mess. There are a lot of people that are scared. There are a lot of people that are worried. But we can trust Him with all of our life because of what He's done for us. So let me encourage y'all with that today. I hope y'all have a great one.